Well, friends, welcome to the current session. We'll continue our discussion regarding registration under GST. So far, what we have learned that the registration liability on the person depends on the aggregate turnover. We have already seen how to compute the aggregate turnover. It includes certain things, it excludes certain things, right? And the basic limit is that 20 lakh, and in some special category states it is 10 lakh. And also, government has got power to enhance that limit. And uh, by using that power, you have seen one notification has been issued. And in certain specific situations, the limit has been enhanced to 40 lakh. So right now, if you see, there are three limits of aggregate turnover. One is 10 lakh, another is 20 lakh, another is 40 lakh. We will be learning that process. After that, it will be more clear to us in which state what is the limit. I'm going to share a PPT file with you right now. PPT is visible. Are you able to see the PPT?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You can see this particular notification number 10 by 2019, which is issued on 7/3/2019, exempts the person who are engaged exclusively in the supply of goods. That means this exemption is not applicable for supply of services, right? This is applicable only to those people who are engaged in the supply of goods only, whose aggregate turnover in the financial year does not exceed 40 lakh rupees. That means if the aggregate turnover doesn't exceed 40 lakh rupees, then need not go for registration under GST. If they are going, they are doing it voluntarily, but there is no mandatory requirement to opt for registration. Okay, did you understand this? So because of this notification, there are now three limits, right? But this notification is there are some exceptions to this notification. That means when I say exceptions to the notification, means exception to this exemption. Right. That means once the notification comes, that means in those situations, exemption limit is up to 40 lakh rupees. But these are the exemptions which are listed here in this slide, as you can see. They are exception to the exemption notification. Means in this case, the limit is either 20 lakh or 10. 40 lakh, the higher limit is not applicable in this kind of situation. First, let us see situation 1. Just a minute. Situation 1. First is that a person required to take compulsory registration under section 24. We'll be seeing that. If compulsory registration is required, then this exemption limit is not applicable. One has to go for compulsory registration. Section 24 will be learning. Second case is that person engaged in making supplies of ice cream and other edible ice, whether containing or not containing cocoa, doesn't matter, or supplying pan masala, or all goods of chapter 27, that is tobacco or manufactured tobacco substitute. For these kind of goods, for these kind of supply, the higher limit 40 lakh rupees, 40 lakh rupees is not high. Okay. Next is person engaged in making intrastate supplies in the states of Arunachal, Uttarakhand, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Telangana. That means in these states also this 40 lakh limit is not up. Okay. Arunachal, Uttarakhand, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Telangana, 40 lakh limit is not applicable. That means usual limit is applicable, 20 lakh. Then, person who has opted for voluntary registration. If somebody has opted for voluntary registration, then this 40 lakh limit is not relevant. Right? These are the certain limits, certain situations. Considering all these exceptions, etc. So if you look at this chart explains that in case of goods, what is the threshold limit for registration? In case of services, what is the threshold limit for registration? Right? These are the states, let us say Pondicherry, Telangana, Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, Jammu and Kashmir. For goods, the limits are 20 lakh, 20 lakh, 40 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 40 lakh, respectively. And for services, the limit is 20 lakh, 20 lakh, 20 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakh, like this, respectively. So in different states, different limits are there. Some other states list is here. Okay, in Assam, limit is 40 lakh for goods, 20 lakh for services. Himachal, 40 lakh for goods, 20 lakh for services. Arunachal Pradesh, 20 lakh for goods, 20 lakh for services. Meghalaya, 2020, Sikkim, 2020, Uttarakhand, 20. Since so many steps are there, the limits are there, it may be a little difficult for you to remember. Therefore, what I have done, we have summarized it in this particular chart. It will be easy for you to understand now. Now, first you see, this first column, this covers the states with threshold limit of 10 lakh, both for goods and services. Okay, as you can see, there are 4 states here. These 4 states which we have understood, they are called as the special category states for the purpose of GST. We have already identified earlier in the earlier session. We know these are the 4 states we are talking about this. Can you read the name of these states? Where limit is 10 lakh for both goods as well as services. Can you read this name? Which are the states?
Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura.
Yes. So, you know, there are 11 special category of states. Out of 11, 7 special category states are excluded for the purpose of GST. And remaining 11 minus 7, these are the 4 special category states for which the threshold limit is only 10 lakh. And 10 lakh means 10 lakhs both for goods and services. Now, after that, this column, we have listed a number of states where the threshold limit is 20 lakh for goods as well as services. For both the kind of supplies, that means irrespective of the fact whether supply is for goods or for services, the limit is 20 lakh. Okay, there are 6 states under this category. Some of you please read the name of these 6 states and try to remember what are these states. Please tell me. Please read. Please read this column.
Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry, Telangana, under the threshold of rupees 20 lakhs for both goods and services.
Yeah, for goods as well as for services, for these states limit is 20 lakh. Okay, 10 lakh is for 4 and 20 lakh is for 6. Now, remaining state includes some of the special category states and some other normal states, right? For remaining state, the threshold limit is 20 lakh for services and 40 lakh for goods. Please read the list. Here for goods, 20 lakh, goods 40 lakh. Why for goods it is 40 lakh? Because of this notification. Okay, notification number 10 by 2009. Here limit has been enhanced and some states have accepted this. And these are the states. Please read these states. 2040. Please read these names.
Jammu and Kashmir, Assam, uh, Himachal Pradesh, all other states with threshold limit of rupees 20 lakhs rupees 20 lakhs for services and rupees 40 lakhs for goods.
Yeah, I think this chart is more useful to you. The previous chart was a long list. It was a little difficult to remember from here. But I expect all of you should remember this chart. It will be very helpful. Now tell me, what is the threshold limit in the state of Odisha if supply is only services? The state of Odisha,
So rupees 20 lakhs.
20 lakh. And if the supply is for goods,
So 40 lakhs.
40 lakh. And what is the threshold limit in the state Bihar?
So in Bihar also same. So 20 lakhs for services and 40 lakhs for goods.
And what is the limit for the state of West Bengal?
So it comes in all other states. So it will be rupees 20 lakhs for services and rupees 40 lakhs for goods.
Okay. And what is the limit for Telangana?
So Telangana here it's given so 20 lakhs for both goods and services
What is the
threshold.
limit for Andhra Pradesh?
Andhra Pradesh, so again, so it comes under all other states. So it will be 20 lakhs for threshold limit will be rupees 20 lakhs for services and rupees 40 lakhs for goods.
Yes, you see, Andhra Pradesh limit is different. Telangana limits are different. So even if the two neighboring states, so this time, or it can sometimes it may happen that threshold limit of neighboring states might be different. Accordingly, in some state you may require to go for registration if you are located in that state. In some state, you may not be required to go for registration. Okay, so I expect this particular chart is very important for you. I expect all of you should remember this chart. You may take a snapshot and try to remember because we'll be discussing some questions right now based on this particular slide. Okay, just have a look. I'm giving you maybe for 30 seconds to watch this slide. Then we'll be discussing some specific questions related to this. For this four special category states, 10 lakh. For 6 states, it is 20 lakh. And for other state, it's 20 lakh for services, 40 lakh for goods. Okay. Now, friends, here is question for you. I expect all of you should participate. Even if answer is wrong, doesn't matter. But please participate. I'll be trying to help you, but I want your participation, your answer. Okay. Uh, Now, some of you please read the first point.
Mr. X of Assam is exclusively engaged in intrastate supply of shoes. His aggregate turnover in the current financial year is rupees 22 lakhs.
Tell me whether registration is required. He's from Assam.
No, sir, it's not.
It's not required. Why it's not required? Please explain. What is the limit for? What is the threshold limit for Assam state?
For
40
Assam
lakh.
state, 40 lakhs, yes.
40 lakh.
Okay. And as you can see, this is for goods, right? He's selling goods, right? So he's not liable for registration. Now, second point, next point you read it. In this above example,
If in above example, all other things remain the same, Mr. X is exclusively engaged in the supply of pan masala instead of shoes.
yeah, what will be your answer now? Whether registration is required? You see, the 40 lakh higher limit is only because of that notification. Is it not? The notification that I had showed you. And there are certain exceptions to that notification. In this case, what will be the answer? Whether registration, whether liable to be registered or not.
So I think it's not liable for the registration.
It's not liable for registration.
No,
The
sir.
pan masala is a kind of goods only, na? It comes under goods section only, na?
No,
So
I
pan masala is exempted.
exempted. Okay, let me tell you what is the notification. Let me 1 second show. This is the notification I showed you regarding the 40 lakh limit. This notification, according to this notification, if the turnover is exceeding 40 lakh, then only registration is required. If it doesn't exceed 40 lakh, then why one need not go for registration? Okay, you have to one has to compare the aggregate turnover with this. And here also I had told you there are certain exceptions to this exemption. That means this exemption is not applicable for this situation. Number one, I told you where compulsory registration is required. Second case, I told you if the person is engaged in supply of ice cream, edible oil, pan masala, and tobacco That means when somebody is supplying this kind of products, the 40 lakh limit is not applicable. What is applicable is 20 lakh. Consequently, in this case, the limit will not be 40 lakh, the limit will be 20 lakh. Okay, you will not be eligible for the higher threshold limit of 40 lakh rupees, the limit of 20 lakh, thus X will be liable for X. Any doubt you have? Anything you want to say regarding this answer? Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, understood. Right. And to arrive at the aggregate turnover, you know all kinds of turnover, your export turnover, exempted turnover, everything has to be included. Right. And higher limit is applicable, but there are certain exceptions. Okay. Suppose instead of please answer. Please.
So I wanted to ask, so here, so Assam comes under the threshold of 40 lakhs.
Yes.
So, and it is exempted from the threshold of 40 lakhs only because it's Mr. X is exempted only because of is exempted from the threshold limit of 40 lakhs only because he is supplying pan masala.
No. First of all, let us understand. You
Yes, sir.
see, there are three limits. Normal limit is 20 lakh. Okay. And special category states for the post state is 10 lakh. 40 lakh is applicable only, 40 lakh threshold limit is applicable only because of this special notification. Okay. And this particular
So,
notification excludes pan masala. So if you are supplying pan masala, then even if you are in the state of Assam, the higher limit of 40 lakh is not applicable to you. What is applicable is 20 lakh.
okay, sir.
Applicable limit is 20 lakh. Because of pan masala. Suppose instead of pan masala, it will be ice cream. Whether registration will be required? Tell me now.
Yes, sir.
Required?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now, next, one more step is, let us say instead of pan masala or SUS, is exclusively engaged in supply of taxable services. Whether registration is required?
Yes, sir.
Yes, very good. It is required because limit will be 20 lakh now. Now, next question. If Mr. X is engaged in supply of both goods as well as services, then what is the limit? $20 lakh or 40 lakh? Is it applicable? Is engaged in both goods?
40 lakhs.
How much?
40 lakhs. 40 lakhs.
Again, I draw your kind attention to that what we have learned. Okay, you see. Exclusively for supply of goods. What exclusively? The 40 lakh is applicable if someone is engaged in exclusively in goods. But here it's not exclusively for goods. It is for goods as well as services. So the limit will be 20 lakh, not 40 lakh. Did you understand? Did you understand this example? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Now, let's see another example. Now, please read the first point.
Mr. S of Telangana is exclusively engaged in intrastate supply of toys. Its aggregate turnover in the current financial year is rupees 22 lakhs.
Tell me whether registration is required or not. We are talking about Telangana. Telangana state. We had discussed about Telangana
Yes,
right
sir,
now.
required.
It is required because it is exceeding 20 lakh. For Telangana,
20 lakhs.
to Telangana, higher limit of 40 lakh is not applicable. The limit is 20 lakh is liable to be registered. Okay. Now, in this above example, everything is same, and Mr. S is exclusively engaged in supply of taxable services, not toys. He is providing services. Then what is the limit? Whether it's liable for registration?
Yes, sir, he is liable for registration.
Exactly, same thing. Same thing. Doesn't matter whether you are goods or services. Limit is 20 lakh. And if Mr. Ace is engaged both in goods and services, what will happen?
So then also he is liable.
Then also is liable. Good. Now you have understood. Then also is liable. Okay. Let's see one more example. Okay. And this is regarding
So your
money.
voice is breaking, sir.
Just a minute. Is it okay? Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Let us try to manage the signal is poor. Let us see. Now we are talking about Manipur. Mr. A of Manipur exclusively engaged in intrastate supply of pepper. Aggregate turnover in the current financial year is 12 lakh. Tell me whether registration is required. He is liable to get himself registered.
Yes, sir, the registration is required because the threshold limit for Manipur is rupees 10 lakhs.
10 lakh, it is 12 lakh, so it is required. Okay, he is liable to get himself registered. Right. Now, everything is same, and Mr. X is exclusively engaged in supply of taxable services. It's not supplying toys, he is engaged in services. Is he liable for registration?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
He will be liable for
liable for
registration.
registration. Now, next, if he
Yes,
is
sir.
engaged both for goods as well as services, is he still liable for registration?
Yes, sir.
Yes. All the three situations, 10 lakh, because for Manipur, which is a special category state, the limit is 10 lakh for goods as well as for services, as well as for both goods and services. One more example. This is Mr. R from Assam, exclusively in intrastate supply of garments. Right. A turnover from his Assam showroom is 28 lakh. He has got another showroom at Tripura. A turnover is 11 lakh. Tell me whether he is liable for registration.
No, sir.
No. Why no?
Uh, sir, just a minute, sir.
Think about it.
Sir,
If you want,
sir,
I will show you the.
In Assam, he is not liable, sir, because in Assam, the goods and the threshold limit is 40 lakhs. And sir,
Okay.
in Tripura, Tripura also, I think, sir, no, sir, Tripura, he is liable because Tripura is a special category state.
Yeah. Tripura, what is the limit?
So Tripura limit is 10 lakhs.
10 lakh. Okay. Then he is having one is Assam, another is Tripura. You tell me whether he is liable or not.
So, so in Tripura he is liable, but in Assam he is not.
In Tripura is liable, in Assam he is not. That is your answer. Can you rethink? And
So I am saying so because you said that. Oh,
no,
sir,
no.
I don't know, sir.
Okay, let us see the answer. Again, I will show you what we have discussed. In this case, what will happen? You see, limit is 10 lakh. Once in Tripura, the limit is exceeding the threshold limit, he is required to be registered. Right? Liable for register. But where will you register? For registering, you have to consider aggregate turnover. And once you are eligible, once you are required to register, you have to get yourself registered in all those states. So first of all, in Tripura limit is 11 lakh. Sorry, limit is 10 lakh, and here his turnover is 11 lakh. So he is required to register, and he is required to register in both the states, in Assam as well as Tripura. Similar example, this is not a new question. I had today or maybe in the previous session, I had discussed. This
Yes, sir.
example I had discussed, I had told you, okay, when you are discussing this particular example, Bhubaneswar, Vizag and Tripura, I think I had told you, we require registration in all the places.
Yes, I forgot, sir.
Yeah. So these are some tricky issues, but important for the purpose of your exam and for the purpose of decision making. So now you have understood in both the states he has to register himself. Okay, the same thing I am repeating. A person required to obtain registration with respect to his place of business in India from where taxable supply has been made. Okay, in our case, in both the cases, supply was taxable supply. But here one more thing you have to remember. However, supplier is not liable to obtain registration in a state or union territory from where he makes an exempt or non-taxable supply. Suppose in this particular example, suppose from Tripura he is making taxable supply and Assam he is making some non-taxable supply. Then your answer is right. For Tripura he may register himself and in Assam he may not register himself. Did you understand? But in our example, in both the cases you are making taxable supplies, therefore both the registration in both the states are required. Okay?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please tell me.
So, while you were explaining us so if Tripura is not is a non-taxable is making a non-taxable supply and Assam is making a taxable supply. So after that, I wasn't able to hear anything from you.
Okay. Okay, then if that is so, let me repeat it once again.
Yes, sir, please, sir.
In the previous example, what we have discussed, I told you, in Tripura it is exceeding the threshold limit. Once it is exceeding the threshold limit in a particular state, that the person needs to get himself registered in all the states. Right? In Tripura it is exceeding, Assam it is not exceeding, but still he is required to get himself registered in Tripura as well as Assam. But I am saying, if he is making some non-taxable supplies from Assam, non-taxable supplies, then he need not get himself registered in Assam. He have to get himself registered only in Tripura. That concept is explained here, right? In this sentence, if you read, a supplier is not liable to obtain registration in a state or union territory where he makes exempt or non-taxable supplies. If he is making some exempt supplies or non-taxable supplies, then registration is not required. Otherwise, he has to get registration from all the states from where he is making supplies. To understand this, let me give you one more example. Now you see this example, you see. Let us discuss this example. Did you understand this concept before going to that example? Concept is that no registration is required in a state if you are making only exempted goods, exempted supply or non-taxable supplies from that state. Is this concept is clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us discuss some more issues. Now here the question is that Excel Enterprise is engaged in supply of taxable goods in Maharashtra. Right? Taxable goods in Maharashtra. Now second point says it makes alcoholic liquor from human consumption in Nagaland. Alcoholic liquor is not coming under GST purview, you know. In Nagaland, he is doing this. His turnover in the current financial is 34 lakh in Maharashtra and 8 lakh is Nagaland. Now you decide, tell me whether registration is required. If required, in which state he should get himself registered. All of you, please and try to answer. Try to give a solution to this issue. What is coming to your mind? Please tell me. What is the aggregate turnover? First of all, decide aggregate turnover.
So, aggregate turnover will be 42 lakhs.
Okay. Now, whether registration is required?
Uh, so, registration is required in
Yeah, because
Maharashtra.
for registration, what is relevant is aggregate turnover. It is exceeding 40 lakh. So, registration
Yes,
is
sir.
required. But now, question is which state or in both the states?
So it will be so we need to so the Excel enterprises needs to get registered in Maharashtra, but not in Nagaland.
Why not in Nagaland?
So will it be registered in Nagaland?
Now, you tell me why. Tell me the logic. Why you are saying is not required to be registered in Nagaland? Your answer is right.
I said so because you had mentioned that alcoholic liquor doesn't come under GST.
Yes, that doesn't come under GST. But before that, I had explained you this point. Supplier is not liable to obtain registration in a state or union territory from where he makes an exempt supplier or non-taxable supplier.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because of this point, I am saying that in Nagaland he will not go for registration. Voluntarily he may go, but mandatorily it's not required. Did you understand the concept?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is the point. Aggregate turnover exceeds 40 lakh, he needs to obtain registration. It will obtain registration only in Maharashtra, but not required to obtain registration in Nagaland. As is not making any taxable supplies from Nagaland. Okay, this situation is different from the earlier situation. Earlier situation also, you told me answer. This is regarding Assam and other state was some other place. Assam and Tripura. Their situation is different. One are supposed to obtain registration in both the states. But here, since alcoholic liquor is supplying, which is a non-taxable supply under GST law, so therefore, registration in the state of Nagaland is not required. Did you understand this concept up to this? Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Well, now I think some major issues are clear. Some other issues also we have discussed. We need to repeat that thing also. When business is transferred on account of success, okay, maybe the owner is dying, the business is succeeded to his legal heir, that kind of situation. When the business is succeeded to another person as a going concern, then the transferee or successor is to get himself registered. That is one more requirement you have to remember. And when the business is transferred in pursuant to one amalgamation scheme or any demerger scheme or any such kind of scheme, uh, in pursuant to an order of the High Court or Tribunal, in these cases, the transferee also required to get themselves registered. You know both the concepts, right? Now, having understood this, we are entering into a new area. In fact, this is about the compulsory registration. From the beginning, I told you, when compulsory registration is applied, then one has to get himself registered, irrespective of the turnover. The concept of compulsory registration is dealt in section 24. We are going to learn that thing now, right? Okay, many we will be seeing various kind of situations where supplier is compulsorily required to obtain registration, even if his aggregate turnover does not exceed the threshold limit of 10 lakh, 20 lakh, or 40 lakh, as the case may be. Okay, right. And there are certain exceptions to this particular sections also that also will be learning. First, we will be seeing what are the situations of compulsory registration, then what are the exceptions or exemptions to this compulsory registration process. Okay, first let us see the situations where compulsory registration is required and who are the persons who require to get themselves registered compulsorily. Okay, first you see person, in fact, I'll be showing you a list of the things. I think there are around 11 number of situations like this. Here are 4 points. Then another thing, another up to 7. Yeah, total there are 11 situations. We have to remember where compulsory registration is involved. First situation is that person making interstate supply. If somebody is making interstate supply, he has to get compulsory register. But however, there is certain exception to that. Threshold limit of 20 lakh. That means only when it crosses 20 lakh, then he has to get himself registered. Okay, and 20 lakh will be read as 10 lakh in case of special category states of Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, and Nagaland. You know, these 4 states are important for us. Many times we will be reading these. Okay, right. So interstate supplies are liable for registration, but exception is that is the threshold limit of 20 lakh and 10 lakh in different states. Then casual taxable person. Who is a casual taxable person? We have discussed in our earlier classes. Right, in the initial classes we have discussed the casual taxable person. If you want, I will quickly show you some slide regarding this. Yeah, this is the person who occasionally undertakes transactions involving supply of goods and services, both in the course of furtherance of business, whether as principal, agent, or in any other capacity in the state and union territory, when he has no fixed place of business. That means this person has no fixed place of business, and still who occasionally undertakes the supply transaction. That person will be called as the casual taxable person. Right. So in case of this CTP, or casual taxable person, making supply, he has to get himself registered compulsorily. But however, there is also one threshold limit, 20 lakhs. If is a casual taxable person making supply above 20 lakh, he has to get himself registered compulsory. And the 20 lakh shall be read as 10 lakh for this special category states of Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, and Nagaland. Okay, so one you have understood interstate supplies. Second is casual taxable person. Third category of compulsory registration is that a person who is required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism, even if his turnover is not exceeding the threshold limit, but he is required to pay tax under RCM. If that is so, he has to get himself registered. Okay, but here one more thing you have to remember. If the person is exclusively engaged in making supplies on which tax is leviable on reverse charge basis, okay, if his own supply is such a that his tax is leviable on reverse charge basis, that person is exempt from registration. He need not go for, he need not come under this category, that is under the category of compulsory registration. He need not be compulsorily registered. Okay. Otherwise, if reverse charge is applicable, he has to get himself registered. Fourth category of person which are coming under compulsory registration are, we call it as NRTP, that is non-resident taxable person. If a non-resident taxable person makes some taxable supplies, then he has to get himself registered. Who is a non-resident taxable person? In our initial chapter we have discussed. Again, let me refresh your knowledge. That is, non-resident taxable person means a person who occasionally undertakes transactions involving supply of goods and services, or both, whether as principal or agent or in any other capacity, but who has no place of business or residence in India. That person will be regarded as the non-resident taxable person. He should not have any place of business or residence in India. Understood? This is non-resident taxable person. Right. 4 categories I have covered regarding compulsory registration. Category 5, one that is about e-commerce. Every e-commerce operator or every issue who is required to collect tax. Right, that means to whom TCS concept is applicable, just like income tax TCS, GST TCS is also there. So in our syllabus, we are not covering that chapter GST TCS. You need to have some idea that in certain situations, tax is required to be collected at source by this e-commerce operators. So if every issue to whom these ECS provisions are applicable need to get himself registered. Then person who supply goods and services other than through issue. Other than through issue is somebody is making goods and supplying goods and services, and who is required to collect tax actuals. That means to whom TCS is applicable. He is also required to get himself registered. But here one has to remember there is a threshold limit of 10 lakh, and in special category state the threshold limit of there is a threshold limit of 20 lakh normally, and in special category state the threshold limit is 10 lakh. Next category of persons to whom compulsory registration applies: the person who are required to deduct tax under section 51. GST provision also contains some TDS provision in certain situations, like government organizations, public sector organizations, some specific organizations required to deduct tax actuals. So if these TDS provisions are applicable to a person, he is also required to get himself registered compulsory. Then person who makes taxable supply of goods and services are both on behalf of another person, whether as an agent or otherwise. So if somebody is making taxable goods and services on behalf of some other person or otherwise, as an agent, he is also required to get himself registered. Input service distributor, they are also required to get themselves registered. Okay, input service distributors, on their input they take credit and they distribute it among their, you can see, other verticals of the business. They are called as the input service distributors. They also required to get themselves registered. Then one more category of persons, that means persons who are supplying online information and database access or retrieval, ODR, right? So these kind of persons who are supplying these things, online information and database access or retrieval, they also required to get themselves registered. Then person who are required to pay tax under reverse charge. If somebody is required to pay tax on reverse charge mechanism, he is also required to get himself registered. And any other person as may be notified by the government. If government notifies, other persons may be required compulsorily register themselves. So these are the 11 category of persons we have seen where compulsory registration is. Okay. Yeah. So if you look at this chart broadly explain you the registration things. You see two kinds of registration we talked about. One is compulsory registration, then voluntary registration. All this, in some situations, compulsory registrations are required when the turnover exceeds the limit. If it is already registered in some other existing law, then also the new owner has to get himself registered. Person making interest rate taxable supplies, but there are exemption limit of 20 lakh or 10 lakh. Casual taxable persons making taxable supplies. Person who is liable to pay under reverse charge mechanism. Input service distributor. Non-resident persons making taxable supply. Persons who are required to deduct TDS. Agents, etc., making taxable supply on behalf of other taxable persons. E-commerce operators. Tax and notified interest rate supplies by e-commerce operators. Persons who supply goods and services to e-commerce operators. Supplying online information and database access or retrieval services from outside India. Other persons or class of persons as may be notified by government. Transferring to register when the business is carried out. If business is transferred as a going concern, then transferee needs to get himself registered. And in the scheme of amalgamation and demerger, also the new company or the resulting company also needs to get himself registered. This particular chart shows briefly in which situation registration is required. Even if mandatory registration is required, people may still go for voluntary registration because, as we know, it has got several advantages also. If you are having a GST registration, first of all, legally You are recognized as a supplier of goods and services. You are legally authorized to collect tax from the customer and pass the credit. Okay, you will be collecting tax. You can avail ITC. You know this concept. Okay, if you are legally eligible, you are legally eligible to collect the tax, take the credit, and pass it to the users. Okay, who may ultimately also take the benefit. One can claim input tax credit. That is one more advantage. Through this registration process also, one can help in seamless flow of input tax credit from supplier to supplier. So these are various advantages of the GST registration. Because of that, many people voluntarily go for registration. Now, here our plan is to stop here today. But next session we'll be learning about persons who are not liable for registration. Up to this, is it clear? This registration process and this compulsory registration process. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this,
Sir,
yeah, tell me.
sir, tomorrow we'll be having a quiz.
Just a minute.